What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Action-packed show for you today. Arkansas with a must-win game against Mississippi State on Saturday. We're going to preview that in full. We're going to be joined by Robbie Faulk over at Gene's page, the Mississippi State site for 24/7 Sports. Curtis Wilkerson is going to hop on with us also to help us break down the game. And Curtis is on his way back, about to be on his way back from SEC Basketball Media Days, so he's got a lot of information from that as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. Plenty of ways to watch and listen to the show. You can always tune in on Facebook Live where we are streaming live. Follow the page if you haven't done so already. Also available on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. Most of the people that watch the videos on YouTube aren't even subscribed to the channel. Throw us a 5-star review if you haven't taken a moment to do so on Apple Podcasts, and that's where you can find us along with anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. And Hawg Sports is just $1 right now for your first month at HawgSports.com. Isn't that exciting? Game week in Fayetteville, finally. We're expecting a pretty good crowd for this one. Now, a lot of people say, there's going to be like 50,000 people there and stuff like that. That's ridiculous. You got to think about also, it'll have been 35 days since the last home game. A lot of people, you obviously plan things way out in advance and things like that. So, there's going to be a pretty good crowd. I would think the north end zone probably maybe a little sparse looking just because of the sun shining down on them. But overall, I would expect them to announce it at 72, 73, something like that, and probably in attendance something like 68, something like that, maybe 69. All right, let's go over a few things first. Got my things backwards. All right. Arkansas picked number 3 in SEC media poll for basketball, obviously. 2 Hogs earned all SEC, Devo Davis and Trevon Brazile. Brazile was actually picked on the first team, and Devo was picked on the second team. I feel like Devo's been on that team a lot the last couple of years. But Brazile, obviously, they're going to build a lot of what they do around him. Should have a great year coming off of an ACL tear, so something to watch there. But Arkansas's got a shot again. Musselman has them competing year after year. As we mentioned last show, Arkansas checked in at number 14 in the AP Top 25, third consecutive season that they've been ranked in the AP Top 25. They play tomorrow, Friday, for those of you watching. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow, Friday, October 20th, against UT Tyler in an exhibition game. There's no television for that game. If you want to go, you need to show up at Bud Walton Arena by 6:30 p.m. to watch the game. Now, on the 28th, on Saturday, 8 days later, they're going to play Purdue, which I believe Purdue is third right now in the preseason rankings. It's a really interesting matchup, especially for an exhibition game. That game will be on SEC Network Plus. It might be the first exhibition game since the Nolan era. I can't even remember if exhibitions were sold out. I feel like Midnight Madness was sell out for those, but it's probably going to be the first exhibition game in Fayetteville since the Nolan era that's going to be like completely full. It's a 3 o'clock game, Saturday, October 28th. It's a bye week for Arkansas, so good opportunity to go check out the basketball team. This game coming up against Arkansas and Mississippi State, 11 o'clock, ESPN. Second game in a row that it's been 11 o'clock ESPN game. Arkansas leads this series. Where's the series? There we go. Arkansas leads this series 18-14-1. They really dominated the 2000s. The series in Fayetteville, though, is only 4-3 Arkansas. So obviously a huge advantage in Little Rock 6-1-1. But yeah, Arkansas really dominated this series in the 2000s. They won 9 straight. That's really where you see the discrepancy with the overall matchup. A lot of changes for Mississippi State, obviously. If you're looking for a change, you should check out Ozarks Go. ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG is a great way to reach them, or you can call them at 479-684-4900. If you're looking for better internet service, you don't have internet service, or you're disappointed with what you have now, or you're looking to upgrade, check out our friends at Ozarks Go. think Northwest Arkansas, north of the tunnel, Missouri, Oklahoma. They've just got a foothold in Rogers. So they're ever expanding. So you want to go and check out and make sure that they're getting in your area. They offer multi-gig, which is what I have, 2,500 megabits per second, lightning fast. They offer gigabit, which is what I had before the multi-gig came out, which I think is great for most people. Several different tiers of internet service and a great price. So they're not going to just loop you in with a low price and then keep jacking your rates up. You're going to get the same price you do next year. It's a local company, so when you call them at 479-684-4900, you're going to talk to somebody from this area also. You're not going to get shipped off to some call center or something like that. Check out our friends at Ozarks Go, ozarksgo.net/hog. I use them. I couldn't be happier. So I always say this, I've literally never unplugged and replugged my internet. It just always works. Arkansas in this game is -6.5. Let me look at the Bet Saracen app, see if it's changed any. I mean, the first day, I think Neil on Randy's show said that the line opened at 5.5. Oops, that's not the right app. The line opened at 5.5, and it got bet to 6.5, and that's where I've seen it since like Monday, so it must have happened quickly. So it hasn't changed really at all since then. But Arkansas -6.5, -240 on the money line. Mississippi State is +210 on the money line, and the over/under is 48.5. I like the over. I like Arkansas. I like Arkansas to cover. Don't go on what I say, but I just feel like Arkansas is ready to explode in this one. And they're at home finally. I could just see them really coming out of the gate. Very enthused. I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of 35-21, something like that, 35-20, 35-24, somewhere along that. But I look for them to cover that line, and it wouldn't surprise me if they blew them out. I know. Calm down, Trey. But, I mean, when you think about it, so Arkansas's lost 5 in a row. Nobody smoked them, though. You know, they're losing these games by an average of 6.5 points. When you look at what Mississippi State does, I know, Trey, you can't compare scores, but we're going to do it because it just jumps out to me so much. We're going to do it anyway because, you know, for fun. Why not? Mississippi State lost 41-14 against LSU in Starkville, and they lost 40-17 against Alabama in Starkville. Arkansas lost 34-31 to LSU in Baton Rouge and lost 24-21 to Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I know matchups are different. There's so many players on the field. It's all about matchups, but that's just kind of glaring to me. Mississippi State also lost to South Carolina 37-30, which is 2-4, and their only other win came against Furman. Yeah, I can't help but compare scores here on some of this stuff, but yeah, I like them. I'm going to say 35-24 in this game. I'm currently 2-5 versus the spread, though, so keep that in mind before if you're relying on me. I'm 2-5 versus the spread. In fact, none of us on HawgSports have a winning record. Not even Andrew Ellis, who is probably the best odds maker type guy on our team. And I mean, he's 3-4 versus the spread. I am 6-1 overall in picking winners right now. That's something. Ain't that something? Okay, let's go to Curtis. So Curtis is currently in Birmingham. If you've been on HawgSports, you've seen all of his great coverage that he's been delivering from Birmingham, from SEC Media Days. I believe the Arkansas women are today. But let's see what he's got to say. And we're going to ask him a little bit about this game, too, because he does a little bit of everything. Curtis, how you doing,
Trey.
man?
I'm doing pretty good. The question is, how are you doing? You know, I kind of figured you'd already be out on a yacht somewhere on the open water celebrating your birthday, but I guess the show must go on at HawgSports, right?
Yeah, well, we can go over like what has happened on my birthday in the past when, you know, Arkansas football weekends. It's not pretty. But yeah, I wouldn't mind being on a yacht somewhere. I guess maybe it's warm enough outside. It's actually pretty good weather. I talked about it earlier in the year, you know, earlier in the month, just how great the month of October is for so many reasons and why it's the best month out of the year. But the weather outside should be perfect for this game Saturday. How you doing out in Birmingham right now? You got everything wrapped up? You done? I mean, the coverage has been fantastic so far.
Yeah, doing pretty well. Kind of carpooled over here with a couple folks and wrapping up the women's stuff today, and then we're going to head back. But it works out perfectly. You know, I knew I had to to do the show here with you, and we've got a Zoom call here a little bit later to preview the men's basketball exhibition tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So got a nice workplace, but it's been good. Birmingham's treating us well, and it's always exciting when you get, coaches and players from all 14 teams in here. Everybody's excited about, what they've got and the rosters that they've built. And, it just kind of signals that basketball is right around the corner. And, I mean, for a guy like me, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. You got a game tomorrow. So, I mean, you're full on at it with basketball and football. It's the overlap. It's a busy time. But, man, and that Purdue exhibition, I mean, how great is that? And good scheduling with the bye week also.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's going to be awesome. I mean, I'm excited about this D2 exhibition tomorrow, just to see these guys just get out there and mix it up against somebody else. Mm-hmm. I mean, once you practice against yourselves day in and day out, since the beginning of the summer, it's you just know each other's tendencies. You've got it figured out. You're getting tired of beating up on each other. You want to play somebody else. So it'll be good for them to get out there and work out some kinks. And, yeah, I mean, this Purdue game, it's going to feel like a Sweet 16 game, and it's an exhibition. I mean, the place is probably going to be full. Bud Walton's going to be rocking, and it's going to be huge for him. Musk talked about it yesterday. And he really wanted to get a game like this. They've got the big 7'4" center that's just different than anything they're going to see in the SEC. Purdue plays just a different style, a different brand of basketball than what you see in this league. So everything he does, he's got eyes on March and having this team as prepared as possible for the NCAA tournament. Playing the team that was a 1 seed last year and is projected to be one again this year. Early on to kind of figure out what you have and what you need to work on. That's a pretty good way to do it. So I'm pumped about it. It's going to be awesome.
Curtis Wilkerson joining us again. You can follow Curtis at @KurtWilkerson_. He's the HawgSports senior analyst, and as you can see, has his hand in a little bit of everything. Let's talk a little bit of football now, Curtis. As we talked about, I always torture you by making you write this keys to victory story, but we keep on doing it because the hits keep coming. Keys to victory, always the same for us: penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries, and we always add a fifth one. What do you mean by get to the cigar?
Oh, I'm going to throw something really profound at you here, Trey. The biggest key to victory for Arkansas is to get the victory. Just do it. I mean, They've been so close in most of these games they've lost during this 5-game losing streak. Close but no cigar. So get to the cigar. I could go through all these different options about, converting on third downs or getting off the field on third down or red zone efficiency, whatever. They just have to play a complete football game and put it all together and get over the hump. I mean, when you got Sam Pittman sitting up there all week saying, hey, this is an absolute must-win game. We got to get this one, got to have it. It doesn't matter how you do it. You just got to find a way to get over the hump. They're back home. It's a favorable matchup. They're favored to win. You just got to figure it out and get it done. I think they've, maybe it's not as bad as people feel like it is. You've lost 5 in a row, and it's been a tough schedule. We've talked about it so much. Well, now the excuses are all out the window. I mean, you're back home. You're favored. Get the job done. Doesn't matter how you do it.
So what's Arkansas's record in Razorback Stadium under Pittman?
What are they, about 500? I wrote this earlier.
You wrote it down. Yeah, that's why I asked you. I thought you'd just pop it off. 7-7.
Yeah, 500.
Well, 7-7. Right. It's a good drink.
Yeah. So, man, oh man. But and again, that's kind of what gives me a little bit of pause about this game, because we do our predictions. I was thinking about it a little bit earlier this morning, and I'm thinking, you know what? Arkansas should be, they're favored in this game. They're back home. Just feels like they're going to get over that hump. That I think back to the last home game, and I'm like, well, they're favored to beat BYU. They should have handled that one, and they let it slip away there. And it's just been so long since they've been home. Sam Pittman forgot what it felt like to prep for a home week. I wonder if this Arkansas team has forgot what it feels like to win. So, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see, because I think this is a game that Arkansas should be able to handle. I think they're more talented. I think they're the better team. But we just got to see them finish. So I don't know. I'm really, really intrigued by this one, because if you win, you go to the bye week and you're feeling great. Maybe not great, but you got a little bit of momentum going. You think maybe you can rattle off some wins and maybe get to a bowl. But if you lose, oh man, I mean, the boards are going to be in shambles. So we'll see.
The fact that Pittman said this is a must-win game, I mean, it's true. It's 100% true. There's no reason in dancing around it. It's a must-win game for different reasons than, the BYU game was a must-win game. It's a totally different reason because now we're just talking about getting to a bowl game, trying to get a winning record. And if you lose this one, I mean, you can just see this thing deflating really quick because Mississippi State doesn't have a good team. I mean, they're an SEC team. They're capable of beating you, but – I mean, if you come and, bring your A game, come with the intensity you should come with, then you should absolutely win this game. KJ Jefferson was 21 of 31 for 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions against LSU. He also had 16 carries for 48 yards against the Tigers. To me, that was his last kind of really, really good game where he put everything together. He led a drive there at the end. Obviously, LSU was the team with the ball last. But he needs to put it together for Arkansas and really just kind of, he showed us glimpses against Alabama, but really just put up some numbers against these guys, don't you think?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, we've seen him put up just monster games, with total yards, using his legs, throwing the ball around. We know how talented KJ Jefferson is. I think you're right. In the second half of that Alabama game, he just looked a little bit more like himself, I think, than we've seen the last few weeks, especially on, the crazy play where he shucked off the sack there and found Barquise Gums. He was using his legs, popped off a couple big runs. That's when KJ is really feeling good. You're right, though. He's got to put it together. You look at this Mississippi State defense, the quarterbacks that they've faced, in SEC play, Daniels from LSU, Milroe from Alabama, Rattler from South Carolina. I think they've thrown a combined 8 incompletions in those games, those 3 quarterbacks, and they've really struggled to contain them using their legs. And so you just think it's a perfect matchup for KJ Jefferson, playing a school from his home state. He should be motivated. I think he's due for a big game. And man, if he's ever going to have one, this is the matchup for him.
Well, what would help him more than just about anything is they could get the run game going and get a little balance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. It's crazy to me. To see some of these rushing totals over the course of the last few games, it's wild. And, they only ran for, what was it? I think it was 100 total, last time out against Alabama. And I walked away from that one thinking, man, that was a lot better. That's crazy. I mean, they averaged well over 200 yards per game on the ground last year. I know there's been some change on the offensive line. I know it's a different system, but man, you still got some horses back there. It's just wild to me. You've got to be able to establish a run game to have success in this league. And I think they've got the guys to do it. So, it stinks, the situation with Rocket Sanders. Man, I just don't think anybody could have seen this coming, with the injuries and just the ineffectiveness when he's been in there. So they're going to have to lean on guys like A.J. Green and Rashad Dubinion. I hope Green gets some more carries. I think he's looked pretty good for him. I mean, we'll see. They're going to have to get some stuff going on the ground. I know Mississippi State, they like to do the run blitzing, and, I know they got a lot of movement on the defensive front that gives Arkansas a lot of problems. But, you got to get things going and establish that ground game. It opens everything up for them.
Yeah, and I think the tempo, like keeping the tempo up and, not standing there in your stance for as long, all those kinds of things, I think helped Arkansas on the offensive line last weekend. An interesting matchup with Arkansas's defensive front versus Mississippi State's offensive line. I don't know if there's a more experienced offensive line in the entire country. I mean, you've got guys with 30-plus, a couple of guys with 30-plus snaps. Everybody has double-digit starts, not snaps. But everybody's got like double-digit starts. A lot of veterans up front. Both tackles are 6-year guys, so a lot of veterans up front versus what Alabama had. Alabama had some really talented players, particularly at tackle, but young guys. So that could be a really big matchup. I don't think it's fair to expect Landon Jackson to put up 3.5 sacks, but I would think that they would probably try to keep an extra eye on him, and maybe Trudge Jeffcoat could have a big game on the other side. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that could be a really big key for Arkansas. Landon Jackson, man, he made himself some money last week. He looked great. He was a game wrecker, and I think he's playing with a lot of confidence right now. And again, for that home crowd, when you get a sack at home, you can get up and flex your muscles, and go a little bit crazy. That gets you hyped, man. That really gets people going. So having some big plays in the backfield like that, I think that'll be key. You mentioned Jeffcoat. He's kind of been hit or miss. He has a game where he's got 3 tackles for loss, and the game where
I think it's Andrew that, sometimes these guys are out there the whole game. They don't put up any stats. He says they're the all cardio team. So, which version of Jeff Code are we going to get? Hopefully for the Razorbacks' sake, it's the good one. But, I do think it's going to be a factor. And especially given the quarterback situation with Mississippi State right now. I haven't looked this morning, but I don't guess there's still, any real clue as to whether or not it's going to be Rodgers or Wright. And those guys are such different styles. So preparing for a couple different things this week, maybe you can really get to Rodgers and get him down, but it's just different with a guy like Wright who's so mobile. You got to kind of contain him. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
Your last point that you make is can complementary football get Hogs over the hump? And, I've made this point also. Arkansas has not been blown out by anybody. The biggest rout, I guess, was 12 points against Texas A&M. That might have been a closer score than the actual game was, in my opinion. But, they're losing these games by an average of 6.4, as you noted in your article, by 6.4 points per game. What do you think is going to happen Saturday? You got a score prediction yet, Curtis? How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, I tell you what, I really think that, again, it's a weird deal because, with Mississippi State coming off the bye and Arkansas coming off this long road trip, and some of the injuries and everything they've dealt with, there's kind of a recipe there for a team like Mississippi State to come in and kind of add to the bleeding, But given the uncertainty with some of their big-time players, Rodgers, Marks, the running back, and maybe he plays, how effective is he going to be? They needed this time to heal up, but I don't know that they're as healthy as you'd like to be coming out of a bye game. So I do think Arkansas is going to win this game. I'm probably going to pick them to win a one-score game, and don't listen to me because I've been terrible against the spread this year anyway.
We've all struggled.
Yeah. It's been brutal,
even Andrew
man.
Struggled.
Yeah, and he's the betting guru over there. So, I think Arkansas is going to get over the hump in this game. And again, the complementary football, if your defense is going to keep you in games, at some point the offense is going to have to step up and help you out. You mentioned the Texas A&M game. It wasn't the only issue they had, but the big punt return for a touchdown. So in that one, you get burned on special teams. And, this is just a game where, again, I think Arkansas's got the better team. They've got to play like it all three phases of the game. Whatever cliche you want to use there or coach speak, it's time to put up or shut up and get it done. I think and I hope that they're going to be able to do that this weekend. Yeah,
it doesn't. Was it 2021 Auburn came to town after Arkansas had a couple of tough road. It almost felt like that Auburn game, like Arkansas was owed something almost. It felt like they owed Arkansas a win, like the football gods. And Pittman talks about pressing a little bit too much, and Arkansas lost the game, and it just felt like that was right for the taking, and they lost. They just can't have that happen against Mississippi State. I mean, it would be a disaster. I mean, it really would. Like, it's already been a train wreck, but it would be a train wreck on a train wreck if they dropped Mississippi State at home. It just would. I mean, you hate to just say this game is so pivotal, but for when you talk about the future of Pittman, the future of this team, I mean, a lot of things. It's just a big one. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it, and you're 100% right. Yeah, this train is it's a train wreck, and already. But man, like I don't even want to speak it into existence. What that would feel like if they're not able to get this one done. That's all I said earlier. The board would be in shambles. Our people don't need that, Trey. We need a little bit of a pick-me-up before this bye week. It's going to be a long 2 weeks where people are going to be packing this thing in and going all in for basketball. Some of them might be doing that already. So we'll see. But I agree, man. It's huge for Pittman. I like Sam Pittman. I hope he figures it out. And, he's kind of put the pressure on himself and on his own shoulders by saying it's a must-win. Now he's got to go out there and deliver.
Yep. All right, Curtis. Appreciate you, brother.
Anytime.
All right. Be safe getting home.
Appreciate it. Happy birthday.
All right. Thank you. All right, everybody. That's Kurt Wilkerson. Again, you can follow Curtis at Kurt Wilkerson _ HawgSports. Do it all kind of guy. Just does a great job with basketball, especially. And he's in Birmingham right now and has a lot of great content from Birmingham. All right, let's go to Robbie Faulk. So give me a second to bring Robbie up here. Robbie basically just does a lot of stuff. Robbie's into everything from wrestling to football and everything else. We might ask him a little wrestling stuff. I haven't kept up with that lately, but does a great job, covers Mississippi State for Gene's page, the Mississippi State site dedicated to covering the Mississippi State Bulldogs, or for 24/7 Sports. Robbie, how's it going?
What's going on, Trey?
Not much. It's been a while since we've talked.
I think it was 2 days before the pandemic and the world ended in 2020?
Yeah, we had a long conversation, I think, at dinner, and then the next day the world shut down.
Unbelievable. I think we were at the stage or something, and there was 5 million people in there, and we had no clue that what was about to happen. So better times now.
I know. I'm tempted to ask you a bunch of wrestling questions. I know you're into wrestling, but we only have like about 10 minutes or so we'll jump right into the game. Can you fill us in a little bit on the latest with the injury report? I know Zach Arnett's been kind of quiet on it. He has hinted that he feels like they're going to get some guys back, but what are your thoughts? What are you hearing about Mississippi State and some of the key injuries?
Yeah, I think the main target is squarely on Will Rogers and what's going on with him. And, obviously left 2 weeks ago, left the game, didn't look good. Looks like a shoulder injury of some sort. I mean, we've all seen it before. A quarterback hits the ground, comes out of the ball games, kind of dragging that arm a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we saw with Will Rogers. He went to the trainer's tent, then he went to the locker room, came out and didn't have his helmet on. He didn't return to the game. So, obviously he is questionable for the game. I would say probably doubtful for the game. And that's the big one for Mississippi State. And then Woody Marks would be the number 2 guy that I would be focusing on this week, starting running back. And he's been dealing with a ankle injury, which I think he's had a couple of different ankle injuries. They left him out of practice completely last week. They were going to bring him back either yesterday or today and kind of see how he was handling that. And had kind of a cryptic tweet yesterday, emojis. I mean, I'm not very good at deciphering that stuff, but if you read into it, you can read into it however you want to. I read into it possibly as positive news for him. He could play on Saturday, so that's just going to be probably a game time decision. But
or he could be talking about his girlfriend.
It could be. I mean, every day I'm trying to decipher recruits, emojis, or a player. I mean, it's impossible.
Robbie Faulk joining us again. You can follow him at Robbie Faulk 24/7. Does a great job over there covering Mississippi State. So tell us a little bit about Mike Wright. We remember him through recruiting back in 2019. The former Arkansas staff was recruiting him. He ended up obviously at Vanderbilt. That staff moved on or was fired. And I remember seeing him play a good bit against Hawaii early last year at Vanderbilt and had a really good game against Hawaii, obviously transferred to Mississippi State. What can we expect? What do they like to do differently with him in the game? And what can we expect from Mike Wright if he is the quarterback Saturday?
Yeah, he's a super athlete, probably one of the more swift quarterbacks that you'll see in the league. I mean, he can really run when he gets out in the open. And so far this season, they've utilized him in some certain packages. He'll run some goal line packages, maybe like 3rd, 4th, and short. Every now and then they'll bring him in on 1st down or something. First 5 weeks, he was getting mostly, one play here and there. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, rather, against Western Michigan, they actually had him having, taking like full series. So he was splitting time with Will Rogers. He got a lot more time in that game. He threw 10 passes. He was 7 for 10. Started off a little rusty throwing the football, but he's got a decent arm. The accuracy has not been proven, obviously, at Vanderbilt and hasn't yet here. But he's a guy that, he's not going to be a guy that, is only going to run the football. I think he can throw it if needed. But they're probably going to run a lot more zone read concepts, a lot more power concepts with him, some RPO. The offense is going to look different with him at quarterback than it did with Will Rogers. And that's not a bad thing for Mississippi State. It's, kind of an expansion of the offense, because Will Rogers is limited in what he can do running the football. So it's going to be a little bit different for Arkansas to prepare for. They have some film with him, obviously, at Vanderbilt, so it's not like what Mississippi State had to deal with Malik Hornsby last year. But you will see a much different looking offense with him at quarterback than you did with Will Rogers.
It's been unfortunate for both quarterbacks, obviously different circumstances with the passing of Mike Leach at Mississippi State and then Kendall Briles just taking another job at TCU. But, you've got guys that were just brought up in this system and, have been so prolific in their own different ways, and then things get changed so much real quick. And I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be fitting either guy very well. When you look at overall with this offense, like you kind of talked about the major differences, but I guess just kind of go into a little bit more about, just some of the different principles, because we see obviously a lot more rushing yards with this team and a lot fewer passing.
Yeah, Kevin Barbay is much more multiple than what Mike Leach did. With Mike Leach, most of the plays were the same every time. It's just finding an open man and finding some grass for a guy to get some yardage. This offense is going to be a little more multiple in what they do. You'll see different formations. Every now and then they'll line up under center and run with a single back set. They'll have, two back set, pistol. I mean, it's going to be a lot more multiple than what you saw with Mike Leach, and I like it. I've liked the concept so far. There's air raid concepts in this offense. Kevin Barbay has really taken from a ton of different offenses. He was a Jim McElwain guy, but you can kind of see a little bit of several different offensive concepts in what he does. And I think that is the best way to run an offense these days. You got defenses now that can game plan for certain offenses, have an offense that can do a lot of different things, so you're not handcuffed to one single thing. And I think what we've seen is the numbers right now don't bear it out to what it was last year, but it's still year one with Kevin Barbay. But we've definitely seen a much more balanced offense. And while it might not be as prolific as what the air raid was from a scoring standpoint last year or for a total yards standpoint, I think that you have seen this offense get into a better flow as the game goes on. And each week, I think it's gotten better.
What's going on with the defense? I mean, obviously Arnett's a defensive guy, but they're giving up like about a touchdown more a game and about 50 yards more a game this season than last year.
Yeah, it has not been good, man. You guys play State every year. You see them every year. I mean, this is not Mississippi State football. I mean, defense has kind of been MSU's calling card over the years. It's been a blue-collar team. It's been a team that's won in the trenches, and they're just not doing it right now. They're not winning up front. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback. The back end of the defense is really struggling to cover and cause incompletions. I mean, every quarterback the last 5 weeks, I think, has completed 70+% of his passes. So, I think Dan Enos and KJ Jefferson might be licking their chops on this, looking at this defense, because they've just been so bad at defending the pass. And I think it really starts up front. And that's really not like Mississippi State. They've had a ton of guys go to the next level and done great things on the defensive line. You got 2 linebackers that have been here for 5 or 6 years, and Buki Watson and Jet Johnson, which I think both are having good seasons. But, the front 6 right now is just not performing. And, a lot of that is the loss of Tyrus Wheat, who I think was really good at setting the edge, and that 3-3-5. They just don't have anybody right now that has been good at setting the edge. I think it's affected the whole defense.
Who have been some of the major – obviously we've talked about Mike Wright, but who have been some of the major impact guys? Seems like really maybe a bunch of defensive guys, Crumedy and Don Terry Russell, some of those guys, as far as the newcomers from the portal and such.
Yeah, Don Terry Russell, his brother DeMonte Russell plays defensive end, and he could return this week. He's been out for the past couple of weeks, but Don Terry wasn't expected to be a major contributor on this team, but he's got the body and the agility that he can at least get, past the edge and cause something bad to happen for the offense. So they basically had to force him in there and told him just to go get the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had a pretty good last couple of games. Came in against Alabama, had a couple of sacks, and he's kind of stepped up this year, kind of unexpectedly. But yeah, Jaden Crumity is obviously going to catch Sam Pittman's attention with his offensive line. That's a guy that's been around for a long time. He's been starting since 2019. So that's going to be a big piece. And then Mississippi State's two linebackers, like I mentioned, Buki Watson and Jet Johnson, that was the top two tacklers in the league last year. So they're back and, still waiting for some guys in the secondary to really step up there. But, on the offensive side of the ball, you got Tulu Griffin, who's doing it in special teams as well. He's Mississippi State's game breaker. Woody Marks has really taken a step with his offense if he can be healthy in this game. And then, you got other wide receivers that Justin Robinson should be back this week on the outside. He should be a threat as well. So there's been a few guys that have stood out so far this year.
All right, last question. How do you think things are going to play out on Saturday? And are you ready to give a score prediction yet?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on the score prediction. I've got Arkansas in the game just because I've watched pretty much all of Arkansas's games in this 5-game losing streak. And the one thing that I've noticed, yes, the offense just doesn't seem like a fit for KJ Jefferson, and it's kind of frustrating to watch. I covered KJ in high school. I love that kid, and it just feels like they've kind of taken away a lot of his strengths. But the one thing I'll say about Arkansas that I've noticed is nobody's dragging their head. Nobody's giving up. They're all, still fighting to the end of the ball game, and we've seen that against LSU, against Alabama, and Ole Miss. Those are, three of the best teams in the West, and I think they've been in those ball games. So that's a sign of a team that's not letting these ball games hinder their play on the field. So to me, playing at home, playing a team that you feel like you can beat, and you're finally back home, they're probably going to be playing with confidence on Saturday. So I'm going to take the Razorbacks. I've been back and forth on whether or not they cover. I think maybe 27-20 is the score. I think State it could be a good game, but I think Arkansas's defense is probably going to be the difference in the ball game. They'll be able to get stops. We'll see if Mississippi State's able to do it.
All right, Robbie. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on with us and giving us some more details about Mississippi State, and hope to talk to you again soon. It's been too long.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you getting in touch with me. Maybe we can get back to Nashville pretty soon.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All right, Robbie. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man. See you, Trey.
All right, everybody. That's Robbie Faulk. Again, you can follow him at Robbie Faulk 24/7. That's ROBBIEFAULK 24/7. He has covered Mississippi State Bulldogs for a number of years and does a great job over there with the staff over at Gene's Page. All right, where do we want to go? What's next for us? What's next? I mean, we pretty much covered most everything we want to talk about with Mississippi State. Obviously, interesting quarterback situation. He kind of feels like it's going to be Mike Wright. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to add to what he says. We talked about the offensive line for them and the key matchup with the defensive line. Their offensive line averages 6'5", 314 pounds. Cameron Jones has 37 career starts. Quatravius Johnson has 23 career starts. All total, these guys have 141. Those are the two tackles, 141 combined snaps. I think this is probably the most experienced offensive line that Arkansas will have faced. They allow 2.3 sacks a game, including 6.0 tackles for loss. Not including, but also 6.0 tackles for loss. Arnett's optimistic they're going to get some guys back. I would think that Marks is, from the way Arnett's talked about him, and Robbie mentioned the kind of cryptic tweet, kind of feels like he's going to be back. And Arnett said we're very optimistic we'll get a few guys back on Saturday. So that's kind of how it seems right there. All right, you guys ready for a few questions? We're going to take a few questions here today. We're going to wrap up the show here in just a bit. Before we do that, I want to mention my friends at Ozarks Go again. You can reach them at 479-684-4900 or check them out online at ozarksgo.net/hog. That's HAWG. Add that /hog so they know you came from here. But go check them out, see if they're available in your area. It's been the best internet service that I've had. I've had several different. I've probably had 4 total up here in Northwest Arkansas, and this is the only one where I've not had to unplug it and replug it. Pulls super fast speeds wirelessly. I've got a couple of TVs that are hardwired straight into it, and man, I'm telling you, like you're watching a video on YouTube or something, it just zips past. You got a lot of people over at your house. You're going to have plenty of bandwidth. Everybody's going to be able to get online, especially if you have the Megabit multi-gig service is what I've had for the past few months, and the Gigabit, which I think is probably good for most people, most families. They offer several different tiers. A couple nice guys come over, hook it up for you. They'll be in and out of your hair real quick, and at least on my experience, you're not going to have any outages. You're not going to have any issues. There's no reason for you to call after your installation, 479-684-4900. But if you do want to call them, you're going to talk to somebody local because they are a local company. Go check out our friends at ozarksgo.net/HAWG. What's your score prediction? Let me know in the comments below how you think this game's going to play out. It's an interesting one. I mean, it's as must-win a game as there is. I mean, there's no other way to say it, and it's for different reasons than BYU was a must-win. This really feels must-win for a lot of reasons. Isaac Riley says, appreciate the HawgSport team as always. Go Hogs. Appreciate you, Isaac. Mike Cormier says, what are our chances of winning out? That would be great way to close out the year. It'd be a fantastic way to close out the year, but say it out loud. Say, Arkansas just lost 5 games, but they have a chance to win their next 5. See how that sounds? I'm not saying it can't happen. I picked them to go 4-1 down the 5-game stretch in my preseason predictions. The only loss I have them is to Missouri because Arkansas just loses to Missouri. It's just kind of the way it is. So I expect them to lose to Missouri. And I'm going to expect them to lose to Missouri. I'm going to pick them to lose to Missouri until they start beating Missouri. Lucas Pattison says, will KJ come back for another year if he doesn't like his draft stock? I don't think KJ is getting drafted right now. What would this roster look like if KJ and Rocket both come back for their senior year? I don't think Rocket's coming back. Will we lose some backs and some QBs to the portal? So I think it's possible we've seen Rocket run the ball for the last time at Arkansas. I think that's possible. Now, he could come back later in the year, maybe. I don't know. I kind of think maybe, tweaked his knee a little bit again and probably going to try to get the knee as healthy as possible to prepare for the NFL Combine. I mean, he's proven himself on the field in the SEC, 1,400-yard season. He doesn't have really anything more to prove. He's a running back, so they have a shorter shelf life. So I would think that Rocket, I would put a 95% on it that Rocket isn't coming back in 2024. KJ, I kind of would maybe say 70% chance he doesn't come back. I don't know. He might. Maybe I say 60% chance. A lot of times guys get in their head that they're going to go ahead and take their talents to the next level, but I think he would make more money at Arkansas than he would if he, was just on a practice squad or something like that, which is about $211,000. Tyler Tober says, does it concern you that O-line hasn't been changing much? I really thought Takias Crawford would be out there by now. Takias has been injured. He has been repping more this past week, mostly the second team. Devon Manuel also been repping more, but Takias and Devon Manuel have both been injured. I mean, Takias didn't even make the trip to, was it Tuscaloosa or Ole Miss? I think it was Ole Miss. Brian Malone says, do we know what's actually wrong with Rocket's knee? I think it's probably, you see a lot of different things put on it, like a sprain or, sometimes that's just an MCL. I would assume that's probably what it is. That's usually like, about 6 weeks for an MCL. Or could be meniscal. That's about 6 weeks, actually. I'm not sure what an MCL is, to be honest. And I don't even know if that's maybe kind of the same ballpark, but could be a meniscus. a lot of times you hear coaches, I just went in there and cleaned something up, and like they'll have minor surgery, and that's usually it's a meniscus. Bill Richards says, what's the score going to be versus Mississippi State Saturday? He's got Hogs 35-17. I think I said 35-24, I think is what. But I either think Arkansas is going to win by about that score, or I think they could possibly like really hand it to Mississippi State. I've been surprised by a lot this year. I would be surprised if Mississippi State beats Arkansas in Fayetteville. I just would. I just think there's so much on the line for this team. And Mississippi State, too. It's not like they don't, they've been practicing. They spent 8 months in the offseason working their tails off, and, they're not happy with 0-3 in the SEC. It's a different scenario, I think, because Arnett's in his first year there. And there tends to be a little more leeway. Pittman's in his fourth year. And if they lose this one, then, at best, they're going to match last year's record at best, and that's winning the next 4, including at Florida. I don't see that happening. Mark Douglas said, not that I don't see them, potentially winning at Florida, but if they lose this one, I could just see people just kind of being like, all right. Mark Douglas says, will the coaches this week do their magic tricks? Will playmakers with a hot hand suddenly disappear from the field? I hope not. Billy Harper says 35-14 Hogs. Bobby Hobson says Pittman gets ran out of town this Saturday afternoon. Jordy Garcia says, Trey, do you think Hogs can cover the spread? Last time I checked, it's Arkansas minus 6.5. Yes, that's what it was when I looked at Bet Saracen. And I've got them covering right now. That's what where I think. Let's think about it. Backs against the wall. It's not like you've been getting your butts kicked week after week. You've been losing a bunch of close games, which isn't a good trend. They're 1-7. And you got Mississippi State coming in, most likely with their backup quarterback. And Mississippi State, who has, got walloped by LSU in Starkville, got walloped by Alabama in Starkville, and lost to South Carolina, a South Carolina team. Their only other win is against Furman. And I know, again, like I said at the top of the show, you can't compare scores and stuff, but it's hard not to look at that and say, I don't know. Arkansas lost to Alabama by 3 in Tuscaloosa. They lost by 3 to LSU in Baton Rouge. They lost by 7 to Ole Miss in Oxford. They lost by 12 to Texas A&M in Arlington, and then they lost at home. That was the one, kick in the pants right there with BYU. Like the other ones, like they've beaten BYU, taking care of business at home, and then they lose 4 straight. Like people wouldn't like it. They wouldn't like that they lost 4 straight. But it's 4 straight SEC road games against teams with winning records in close games. It would be different feeling right now, I think, versus the way people feel right now because of that BYU game. That was just they couldn't lose that game, and they did. They have to win this one. Justin Williams says, I believe Rocket comes back, but I don't know about Kenneth Jefferson. I believe you're wrong. I just you don't ever see it play out like that. With running backs. But KJ could. I think KJ had in his head this is his year, going to take his talents to the next level after this year kind of deal. Really, though, KJ said that a while back. I remember at the bowl game ahead of the Outback Bowl that KJ said, I feel like I need another year. And that's how he put it. I feel like I need another year. And so that would have been his junior year. And then he's back again for his senior year. He's a 5th-year senior. It's not like he's just a 4-year senior. I'm just saying, like look at Jaden Hazelwood last year. Jaden Hazelwood should have come back. He's making, good money on a practice squad for Philly, but he would have made more money in NIL at Arkansas and possibly improved his draft stock if he'd come back, maybe got the knee a little bit healthier. But had in his head, no questions about it, I'm going to Arkansas for a year and then I'm out. Justin Williams said Arkansas will win the final 6 games of the season, including the bowl game. We don't even know who the bowl game is, though. You're going to predict a bowl win against an unknown opponent. Arkansas will win the final 6 games of the season and win the SEC in basketball and a national championship in both baseball and basketball. Well, I'm here for that. I really hope you're right, Justin. I could go for 6 straight wins in football, a basketball and baseball national championship. That would be great. Please. I would love that. I would love to cover that. Landon Montgomery says, how bad does Enos offense look this year without the heroics of KJ. I mean, it's been pretty bad. Now, Alabama has an elite defense. I've seen a lot of people get disappointed in how conservative Arkansas's offense was against Alabama. I think they had to be conservative just because of any long developing plays were resulting in sacks. And we talked about, more of a quick passing game, more up-tempo, all of those things, and that's what they did. Now, there were definitely opportunities where they could have, they probably could have opened things up here and there and didn't, and maybe that cost them ultimately with the final score. But, yeah, I mean, the offense hasn't been a great fit. I don't know that I would put it all on Dan Enos. I know everybody's frustrated because Arkansas put up 471 yards a game last year, and now there's a new coordinator. It's got to be his fault. But, guys, this offensive line has just not been very good. They've got some talented young players who just aren't ready. Look at Alabama. Alabama had a 5-star true freshman left tackle. That guy's 6'7", 360 pounds. I mean, the guy's going to be an animal. He's going to be probably a first-round NFL draft pick one day. But Landon Jackson took him to school on Saturday. 3.5 sacks, 11 tackles. I mean, some guys have talent. They're just not ready. Andrew Chamblee and Patrick Kudus are both 4-star recruits. They both got a lot of ability. I've talked about how young Kudus is. He's younger than some true freshmen on the team right now. He just recently, 2 months ago, turned 19 years old. Bobby Hobson says 28-27 Mississippi State. Oh, that would be a dagger. That one would kill. Another close loss. Dalton Adams says this isn't just a must-win for Pittman, but the future of the program. I've talked about this too, people. This is what happens if you have a coaching change. And sometimes you just have to have a coaching change. Sometimes the internal workings of the program are so bad, teams quit on the coach, it's just not working, and you got to change. It's not an ideal situation in this climate. It's just not. So Pittman gets fired. Let's just say Pittman gets fired. First thing you're going to see, you'll see players walk out of the locker room on Pittman getting fired. You would. You didn't see that at all against Chad Morris when he got fired. But if that happens to Pittman, you'll see players leave the locker room. You'll see a bunch of players enter the portal. If you thought the transfer portal was wild this past offseason, giddy up. It'll be insane how many players. You're going to lose good players. They lost like 5 good players, had 25 players leave, but 5 players that you'd say, that one kind of stings. It'd be a lot more. I mean, you could be people talking about certain players coming back and stuff. You could be seeing certain players enter the portal and playing for other teams that you've been cheering on for years and years. And that happened this year too with a couple of guys, but not many. But you would see that with a coaching change. New coach comes in, gets hired, contact period opens December 1st. You've got December 20th, National Signing Day. You still don't have a coach by December 1st. There's no way. And so then if you finally do get one, within a couple of weeks, you got a couple of weeks at most, maybe a week and a half to build a recruiting class together. And you look at Sam Pittman's first class, he's got 2 players on that class, Shad Stewart, Dominic Johnson. That's it from his 2020 class. So you're going to have a bad recruiting class. You're going to lose a lot of guys that are committed. You're going to have a bad recruiting class and, then scrap things together for the February signing date. Transfer portal, you're going to pull in some good guys. You're just going to lose more guys than you want to lose. You're going to find some guys here and there, and it depends on the hire also. But it's going to be a struggle the first year, and you're going to basically have a crappy 2024 season. You just are. I mean, it's very rare that you can overcome all that and have a good 2024 season. So you're going to have to rebuild the program again. So I'm not saying coaching changes aren't necessary at times. They are. They just are. You've got it. It becomes a point where you're just like, all right, we got to have a change. But if you're like pulling for Arkansas to lose and for Sam Pittman to get fired and stuff, that's not what you should be pulling for right now. You should be pulling for, man, I hope this guy really gets the program turned around because you're going to start all completely over. 2024 is going to suck. It just is. And you can point to Deion Sanders and all the hype around Colorado. Is there a lot of Deion Sanderses out there? I don't think so. I think the best scenario for Arkansas, and I don't see a team that's quit and let go of the rope and given up on their coaches. I don't see a bunch of internal problems. I don't hear a bunch of that kind of stuff this year. Heard a little bit of it last year, but a lot of those guys are out of the program now. And it is easier to turn around a program, nowadays. But in 1 year with a football program, it's just very unlikely to happen. It's just first years are always a big adjustment. So what you should be rooting for, in my opinion, Sam Pittman gets it turned around, gets this program back on track and sets them up for a really good season next year. And if it doesn't happen, I mean, no matter what happens, like next year next year needs to be something. I mean, with the way this season is gone, if Pittman can get them righted, get them to a bowl game, still next season needs to be something special. It just does. So, all right, everybody. I want to thank Robbie Faulk for hopping on with us. Thanks to Curtis Wilkerson also for giving us a little insight on basketball from Birmingham, as well as helping us out with previewing Mississippi State. Thank you to all of you for your questions and all the support that we've had and all the birthday wishes I've seen. Really appreciate that. And we'll be back with you guys on Saturday. I'll be walking out of the stadium after what I think will be an Arkansas win. You never know. That ball don't bounce straight up and down. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.